Part 104. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1031. Tianping Mountain is located about 28 miles west of Suzhou City. The hillside of Tianping Mountain is like a pen stand, with many strange peaks and rocks. It is surrounded by rocks and is tall and graceful. It is famous for its three wonders: strange rocks, clear springs, and red maples. Xiaopingyan didn't expect that he would have the opportunity to visit Tianping Mountain again. In his previous life, he and his classmates visited Taihu Lake during the holidays. This place left a deep impression on him, and now, he came to the same place again in the World Pearl and couldn't help but feel a little dazed. In later generations, there was an ancient maple forest at the southeastern foot of Tianping Mountain, which was especially beautiful in autumn. The ancient maple forest was brought back from Fujian by Fan Yunlin, the 17th generation grandson of Fan's Hongyan, and planted here. At this moment, the ancient maple forest has not yet appeared, because his identity in this world bead is Fan's Hongyan. This world bead named Fan Family Feng Shui is one of the world beads he won from Mr. Pei, and it is also the last world bead he fused this time. The beginning of this world bead began in the autumn of the second year of Sheng, that is, 2 years ago. As soon as Xiaopingyan opened his eyes in the world bead, he became Fan's Hongyan, the magistrate of Xinghua County, and led tens of thousands of people in Tongzhou, Taizhou, and Chuzhou. Haizhou Coast to rebuild the sea dike and weir. This huge project encountered unimaginable setbacks and tests from the beginning. Under the storm and sea disaster, even the court wanted to give up, but Xiaopingyan followed the historical process step by step. Undaunted in the face of natural disasters, he firmly guarded the weir and led tens of thousands of people to overcome all difficulties and build what later generations called Fanggong Dike. Because of his merits in managing the weirs, Xiaopingyan was transferred back to the capital and became the prime minister of Dali Temple. Less than 2 years after returning to the capital, news came from Suzhou that Fan's Hongyan's biological mother, Xie, died of illness. Xiaopingyan returned to Suzhou in mourning to attend to Xie's funeral. Today, Xiaopingyan and the Feng Shui master came to find a cemetery for Xie in Tianping Mountain. This Feng Shui master is a famous geomancer in Suzhou. His surname is Lai, and he is known as Mr. Lai. Mr. Lai is in his 50s. He has 3 long beards and slender eyes. He is wearing a blue shirt and holding a compass. In the mountains, Mr. Lai walked and looked all the way, but could not find a suitable place. The group of people unknowingly arrived at the southeastern foothills of Tianping Mountain. Just after they came out of the woods, on both sides of the mountain road, there were piles of rocks and overgrown weeds everywhere. The rocks were hidden in the grass like wild beasts. Hidden in it, only its back is exposed, and the road is blocked. Seeing this scene, Mr. Lai lowered his head and looked at the compass in his hand and the surrounding mountains. He hissed and his expression was slightly abnormal. "Mr. Lai, have you discovered anything?" Xiaopingyan asked proactively. "Sir, I have been doing acupuncture for many years, but I have rarely seen places like this." "Sir, look, the rocks here may seem chaotic, but in fact, there are hidden patterns to follow." The Feng Shui mister pointed at those places. The rocks were talking to Xiaopingyan. If you look closely, these rocks can be divided into 5 roads. The rocks are like the backs of beasts, hidden among the weeds and under the mounds. If you look closely, you will see that these rocks are not like the 5. Is there a tiger hiding in it? Xiaopingyan took a look, and after Mr. Feng Shui pointed it out, he found that it looked a bit similar. "Yes, Mr. Jing said it, it does look a bit similar." "Mr. Lai, is this a top-notch Feng Shui land?" the attendant following Xiaopingyan asked quickly. "No," Mr. Lai shook his head, "this is a typical unfavorable place for burial. The pattern of these rocks is the most taboo pattern of 5 tigers attacking sheep in Jiangsu. If anyone buries their elders here, the descendants of future generations will feel like they are in a desperate situation, surrounded by ferocious beasts, and are in danger of being pierced by thousands of arrows, and the family will inevitably end up with no descendants, and the ruin of the family. Xiaopinggan looked at the rocky land in front of him and suddenly said to Mr. Lai, there is no need to look at other places, just bury my mother here. When Xiaopinggan said this, Mr. Lai and the people accompanying him were all shocked, and they all looked at Xiaopinggan with disbelief. Sir, why is this? Mr. Lai asked in shock. He had shown many feng shui to those dignitaries, but he had never met someone like Mr. Fan who deliberately buried his elders in the family. Damn it, this is simply unbelievable. Mr. Lai had heard before that Mr. Fan had a good reputation as an official in Taizhou. He was able to benefit the people and was deeply loved and supported by the local people. Therefore, Mr. Lai also wanted to find a feng shui treasure for Mr. Fan this time, so that his descendants can be prosperous, and to show the justice of nature, but he never thought that today, this feng shui treasure land has not been found yet. This Fanda man has actually set his sights on this 5 tigers attacking sheep, and wants to trap himself. Dangerous place. Xiaopinggan looked at the fierce land in front of him, thinking about Fan Zhongyan's broad mind and great love when facing this situation. His heart was filled with admiration, and then he slowly said, ordinary people, a parent has passed away at home, and I'm afraid I don't have the money to hire an earth master like Mr. Lai to perform acupoints to seek good luck and avoid misfortune. If I don't choose this piece of land today, some people will surely suffer misfortunes in the future because they choose the cemetery to bury their family members. Disasters have led to the destruction of my family and the loss of my descendants. Since I know that this place is very dangerous, how can I bear to see other people suffer for it? So this place is chosen by me, and I will bear all the hardships. If God allows me to have no descendants for this, I will bear it calmly. Mr. Lai was horrified and moved. Sir. The attendant next to him opened his mouth to persuade. I have made up my mind. My mother will be buried here. Come down the mountain. After Xiaopinggan said that, he turned around and left. The group of people went down the mountain and took the car back to the city of Suzhou. It was almost dark. The mourning hall in Fan's mansion was still there. Inside the mourning hall, Xie's coffin workers were placed to pay their respects. The cemetery had been selected today, and they only waited until the time came to go. Buried. After eating something hastily, Xiaopinggan and Mr. Lai came to the study. The burial time still needed to be discussed with Mr. Lai. Mr. Lai didn't speak much along the way. When he returned to the study and was face to face with Xiaopinggan, Mr. Lai bowed to Xiaopinggan and bowed to the ground. Before, I only heard that Lord Fan loves the people like this son. He is brave enough to do his job and is a good official. Only today did I know that Mr. Fan has such a big heart and is actually willing to suffer the sufferings of the people with his own body. I have been traveling in the world for so many years and have seen thousands of wealthy people. Mr. Fan is like this. This is my first time seeing you, please accept my respect. Mr. Lai, please get up. Xiaopinggan quickly helped Mr. Lai up. Mr. Lai looked at Xiaopinggan with emotion. Since Mr. Fan has decided to bury his biological mother in that fierce place where tigers attack sheep, and let himself suffer the consequences, I can't persuade him anymore. But in Suzhou City, I know there are still the Feng Shui treasure land of a Yangzai is the best in Suzhou. If you can live in it, your descendants will be rich and prosperous, and they will have the dignity of a prince. I usually don't show this treasure of Yangzai to others easily. Today I will give the land to others. Let me tell you, as long as you buy that house and live in it from now on, you may be able to rely on the Feng Shui of the Yang house to eliminate the evil spirits of the Yin house and ensure peace. Oh, where is that house? That house is Qian's Nanyuan. It is for sale these days. If Mr. Fan wants to buy it, Qian will definitely sell it, Mr. Lai said. Xiaopinggan thought for a moment, saluted Mr. Lai, and said seriously, thank you sir for telling me. How can I monopolize Qian's Nanyuan since it brings all the blessings of the city? In the past 2 years, Suzhou Prefecture has held examinations. The results of Fu candidates are average, so I intend to buy Nanyuan and donate it to Suzhou Academy, so that all scholars in Suzhou can share the blessings there. I am one person and one family is rich, how can it be compared to the wealth of thousands of families? Mr. Lai looked at Xiaopingan in surprise. How could Your Excellency do this? My lifelong ambition is to worry about the world's worries first, and be happy after the world's happiness. I have no other aspirations. This sentence shocked Mr. Lai. He said nothing more, just looked at Xiaopingan and saluted Xiaopingan again. Xiaopingan returns the favor. Qian's Nanyuan was quickly bought, and Xia's funeral was carried out as scheduled, and she was buried in Tianping Mountain, where the 5 tigers swarmed the sheep. On the day Xia was buried, Xiaopingan did not sleep. He stayed in front of Xia's tomb at night, wanting to see with his own eyes how this great change in feng shui that had been talked about by later generations for thousands of years took place. On this day, the sky within 1,000 miles of Suzhou was shrouded in dark clouds. As soon as the sky darkened, heavy rain poured down like a waterfall. Xiaopingan stood in the awning built in front of the tomb, watching quietly, and gradually gained some clarity in his heart. In the middle of the night, a loud rumble was suddenly heard on the mountain. The earth shook. The water on Tianping Mountain was mixed with mud, forming a terrifying mudslide rushing down from the southeastern foothills. The power of the mudslide was so great that all the trees and stones blocking the road were either lost or scattered by the mudslide that condensed the power of heaven and earth. Raging mudslides swept around Fan Hongyan's mother's grave, submerging everything. So that's it? Amid the lightning and thunder, Xiaopingan looked at the scene in front of him, then looked at the sky, and finally understood, is this God's will? The best feng shui in the world is all in the human heart. At dawn the next day, after receiving the news, the people in Fan's mansion and Mr. Lai and his party all rushed towards Tianping Mountain in a hurry. Mr. Lai came to the mountain and saw everything around the cemetery. His eyes suddenly widened. The terrain around the cemetery had completely changed under the mudslide. Yesterday, the hills were like evil tigers hiding in the weeds. The ferocious pieces of rubble have been turned upside down by the mudslide. At this moment, the pieces of rubble stand on the hillside around the cemetery like the what's used by officials to go to court. On the top, guarding the new tomb, there is no longer the viciousness here, but there is another breath. The grave where she was buried yesterday was intact, and Mr. Fan was still keeping vigil for his mother in front of the grave, unscathed. This is Xuanhu Chaotian. Mr. Feng Shui wiped his eyes and said in a trembling voice. The Feng Shui pattern of Xuanhu Chaotian has endless blessings. It is one of the top Feng Shui patterns in the world. With such a pattern, the family of descendants can prosper for thousands of years. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1032. In the heart of the ancient god, as Xiaopingan perfectly integrated Fan Hongyan's world bead, the talisman remaining in the heart of the ancient god that represented the Chao clan's spiritual skills began to vibrate, emitting a brilliant golden brilliance. The sea of blood in his heart also surged, and the golden light and the sea of blood complemented each other. In just a moment, the talisman gradually melted and completely merged with Xiaopingan. I don't know how long it took, but Xiaopingan, who was sitting cross-legged and with eyes closed in the secret room, slowly opened his eyes shining with a different brilliance. Xiaopingan didn't expect that Fan Hongyan's world bead, which was finally fused, would actually allow him to master a divine skill again. This is the real surprise. Compared with the newly added divine skill, the newly added spells in his secret mandala and the upper limit of divine power that has reached 28,671 points seem to be nothing. I didn't expect to master another divine skill. This divine skill seems to be a bit special. It is an advanced divine skill from the Requiem banner. Xiaopinggan murmured to himself, with a slightly strange look on his face. Xiaopinggan just felt the Chao clan's new spiritual skill that he had mastered, and was shocked in his heart. This divine skill is a secret method related to the human soul. There are two ways to use the secret method. The first method is to use it. The method is to protect the soul of a dead person and allow it to be reincarnated again, but it still retains all the memories of its lifetime, just like reincarnation. The second use of this secret method is to separate, imprison, read, shake or even attack other people's souls, which is very domineering and powerful. If the conditions are right, even the souls of powerful demigods can be captured and suppressed. Being able to make dead people reincarnate again is indeed a divine skill. This skill is really a field of reincarnation that only gods can touch. Moreover, it is difficult for ordinary people to defend against attacks on other people's souls. This skill, both kinds of divine skills, require the help of the divine soul banner. This divine soul banner is many times more powerful than the Requiem banner. As he spoke, Xiaopinggan's heart moved, and he had already used the new skills given to him by the divine skills he had just mastered. Not seeing Xiaopinggan, he saw behind him a sudden golden light and thousands of auspicious auras. Shaped like a pagoda, or like layers of giant umbrellas stacked on top of each other, a total of 21 layers of huge soul flags appeared above his head and began to rotate slowly. This divine soul banner is a bit like the previous Requiem banner, but the effect of the divine soul banner is not comparable to that of the Requiem banner. As the huge divine soul flag rotates, a mysterious aura spreads in the secret room. Faintly, the soul-stirring sounds of various bells that came from the divine soul flag last time can still be heard. There is also the soul-stirring voice that is like countless people singing in a low voice. Heaven's heart is kind and benevolent, and his body is smooth and melted with gold. It is difficult to separate from the confusion, and it rises and falls repeatedly. Restore the ancestral nature, and the creation is deep. When you get the wood, you draw the gold, and the gold removes the wood, and you give up the phase. Invasion. Essence turns into a wandering soul, mastering one's mind. When the darkness is gone, traces are hard to find. Something is revealed from nothing, and it penetrates the past and connects to the present. The soul rests in the soul conquers the soul, and ghosts, and gods. In the blink of an eye, the mysterious aura on the divine soul banner wanted to break through the secret chamber and sweep away in all directions. Xiaopinggan quickly pinched the magic spell to control the aura in the secret chamber. If this divine skill was used, it would spread across 1,000 miles. It will be affected within the country and make a big fuss, which would be bad. Xiaopinggan, who was just under this giant flag, was even more solemn, and his whole person was filled with a sacred aura. The next second, Xiaopinggan's heart moved, and the giant rotating flag above his head suddenly turned into a ray of light and disappeared into Xiaopinggan's secret mandala. I have mastered 3 divine skills. Xiaopinggan smiled slightly. Everyone, including Team 179, thought he had only mastered 1 divine skill, the Emperor's Divine Fist. In fact, he had mastered 3 divine skills without knowing it. He had never used the divine skill of void confinement in front of others. And now, he has mastered the divine skills of the Samsara divine flag. According to the standards of Black Flame, he has mastered 3 divine skills, and he can already play the role of the leader of the action team. Like Mo Ziyang, he has mastered 3 divine skills. It would take others with good luck more than 10 years or even hundreds of years to master 1 divine skill. But for him, it would take him less than a year to master these 3 divine skills. Tai Ni, oh my god! After returning from Wuyang Tower, Xiaopinggan was merging the world beads he had just obtained in the secret room. After all the world beads were integrated, half a day had passed and the sky outside was getting dark again. Xiaopinggan did not leave the cave, so he returned to the room and fell asleep. This was the first time he had a good sleep after returning to Wolong territory. When they woke up, everyone had been in the war zone and hadn't slept for more than half a month. The next day, the sun just came out, and the golden sunlight just shone on the top of the mountain. The birds were chirping happily on the treetops again. Xiaopinggan, who had a good sleep last night, had already washed up and left his cave. Come out and breathe in the fresh air of the mountains outside. The cave where Xiaopinggan stayed was close to where the other 3 members of Team 179 lived. This was the Feiyun mountain range in Wolong territory. Feiyun mountain stretched for thousands of miles and was majestic. The scenery was beautiful and spiritual. Many demigods in Wolong territory, the strong ones, all set their foothold in Feiyun mountain. The so-called cave is very simple for a strong demigod. He selects a place and uses a fire control technique to directly melt the shape of the cave and house he needs. Then he calls in craftsmen to tidy it up, installs a portal, and then creates it casually. Just click decoration cave and you're here. According to the rules in the Wolong territory, each demigod strongman serving in the Wolong territory can have 2 caves in the Wolong territory. The area and formation area of each cave residence does not exceed 1 square kilometer. Ah, good morning, Brother Long. As soon as Xiaopinggan walked out of the cave, he heard a familiar voice greeting him. When he turned his head, he saw Nanhe just walking out of the cave not far away. Nanhe's cave is less than 800 meters away from his cave. More than 1,000 meters to the left of Nanhe's cave is Moziang's cave, and in a valley more than 3,000 meters to the right of Xiaopinggan's side, is Xiling's cave. To a strong demigod, the distance of several kilometers is really the same as the doorstep of his home. Today, Nanhe changed into a blue robe. He also carefully trimmed his thick beard, making him look particularly energetic. Brother Nanhe, it's quite early. Is Brother Nanhe going out? Xiaopinggan greeted Nanhe. Nanhe scratched his head and looked a little embarrassed. Well, today I'm going to meet a friend. We haven't seen each other for a long time. Xiaopinggan caught something and smiled slightly. Brother Nanhe's friend, is she a woman? Nanhe was actually a little embarrassed. Well, we have known each other for a long time, and we have teamed up to fight together before, by the way. Nanhe quickly changed the subject with a guilty conscience. Where are you going, Brother Long? I'll go to the market and then go to the Sutra Collection Hall. Brother Long, you are really working hard, Nanhe exclaimed. My strength is low, I can't do it without hard work. By the way, I was resting yesterday. Where are the captain and Ziling? I don't know. The 2 of them left the cave yesterday evening and don't know where they went. They may have gone to see friends. They are both on vacation. Naturally, they can go and do whatever they want. Nanhe and Xiaopinggan said a few words. And then with a wave of his hand, he summoned a giant eagle with a wingspan of 7 or 8 meters. He sat gracefully on the back of the giant eagle, then waved to Xiaopinggan, and then sat on the giant eagle and left towards the northeast. Watching Nanhe leave, Xiaopinggan also summoned a huge crane, sat on the crane's back, and flew towards the Sutra Collection Hall. When fighting in the Black Dragon territory, everyone wore armor and never left their bodies. After returning, they took off their military armor and felt extremely relaxed. Wherever they wanted to go, summoning flying pets was the most comfortable and leisurely way to relax their body and mind. Xiaopinggan is indeed going to the market and the Sutra Collection Hall. In addition to the world beads and those secret books, Xiaopinggan also wants to find out about the Xiaopinggan who suddenly appeared in the fantasy realm. After all, this has something to do with him. Xiaopinggan, I always feel that this is not that simple. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1033. There really aren't any world beads that can be fused in this market. It's true that very few strong demigods are willing to sell their collections of world beads. Xiaopingan was walking in the market in Wolong territory. Looking at the things displayed in the market, he couldn't help but shake his head secretly. The market in Wolong territory is very large, with several streets running through it, almost like a lively town. On both sides of the streets are various shops in the market. These shops are provided free of charge to the demigods in Wolong territory. It is used and traded by others. As a demigod, it is of course impossible for a strong man to stay in this store all day, so the people guarding this store are either some puppet machine people or some summoned characters. Although these characters are not many strong combat power, but in Wolong territory, it is impossible for anyone to dare to engage in activities such as robbery. It is because they think they have a long life. Anyone who commits something in Wolong territory cannot escape. The picket law enforcement in Wolong territory, the team can lock your trace in minutes. To be honest, this place can stay open all night. There are all kinds of things in the store, from various formation discs to various rare metals in the universe to wonderful elixirs, various rare animals and plants in the universe, and so on. And some stores have a sign directly hanging on it, which says that they can be exchanged for things for sale. If someone really wants to buy it, look at the puppets and summoned characters in the store, they will. The summoner was called. There are many things in the market, but there are not many world beads for sale here, but Xiaopingan has just been shopping for a long time, and saw that there are only more than 100 world beads for sale here, and these world beads are basically ordinary world beads that Xiaopingan has fused before, and there is only one retreating divine world bead. Xiaopingan has not fused it before, and was exchanged for it by Xiaopingan with 3 military merit points. 3 military merit points are exchanged for an ordinary divine power boundary bead. The boundary beads in Wolongling market are really high in price and low in quality, which makes Xiaopingan disappointed. If those strong men who have not advanced to demigod know that they have advanced. The demigod queen can only exchange 50 military merit points for 1 life here, which can be converted into 17 or 88 ordinary divine power world beads. She will probably be angry to death and disturb the Taoist mind. But there is no way. This is the real situation in Wolong territory. Brother, these world beads are basically rubbish. No one wants to put them here to catch fools. I didn't expect that there are fools who are willing to use military merit points in exchange for these garbage world beads. There's no way. Who's willing to do that? Those who bring the G beads here to sell them are just a little bit accurate. No matter how ordinary or bad the G beads are, they may have encountered such G beads that have not been fused. Then you can kill those rare, good, and rare world beads. Whoever gets them should not keep them for your own use. Just after Xiaopingan exchanged for the avoiding divine power world bead, he actually heard people shopping here not far away quietly talking about him. Xiaopingan smiled bitterly, put away the boundary pearl, and retreated, leaving the market and heading to the Sutra Collection Hall. Fortunately, the Sutra Collection Hall was not far from the market. In less than half an hour, the magnificent buildings of the Sutra Collection Hall appeared in front of Xiaopingan. When Xiaopingan first arrived at the Sutra Collection Hall, he happened to encounter the scene he had experienced before. A group of newcomers who had just received the forbidden armor were sent to the square outside the Sutra Collection Hall by the guy who had used the divine skill of giant body. There were more than 100 newcomers, and each of them looked at the Buddhist scripture hall in front of them with excitement, longing, shock, yearning, etc. This is the Sutra Collection Hall of Wolong territory. The Sutra Collection Hall contains all kinds of secret scriptures in the universe. It is all-encompassing. Every secret scripture inside is a priceless treasure on the outside. Ordinary people may not be able to use it in their lifetime. You can see a book, and here, as long as you pay the corresponding divine power points, you can freely learn the secret methods in the Sutra Collection Hall. There are only a handful of places in the universe that can rival the Sutra Collection Hall. The way of heaven under the command of the Lord, there are only 9 such sutra collection halls. In the next 108 days, during the time when you cultivate the taboo armor in the sea of consciousness, you will live in the sutra collection hall. This is for you. After 108 days, when you can use the forbidden armor, you will receive your respective tasks, so cherish this time. Damn, that guy who used the divine skill to become a giant actually had the same lines as what he said to Xiaoping'an and the others. After saying this, the guy flew away gracefully, and then a group of puppet machinemen came up and took the newcomers into the Sutra Collection Hall. After experiencing the cruel war in the Black Dragon territory, when Xiaoping'an saw the guy who could perform spiritual skills as a giant again, he could no longer feel the slightest bit of oppression and fear from that huge body. He even had a faint feeling that if he really wanted to fight, that giant will not be his opponent, that huge body that looks like a god. It is difficult to escape from the shackles of the void imprisonment of his own divine skill, and once that body is restrained, it will become the target of his emperor's divine fist. I can completely blast his body to pieces. This kind of confidence and calmness in his heart, as well as the experience of countless bloody battles, unconsciously made Xiaoping'an's aura become particularly powerful. The newly arrived demigods also saw Xiaoping'an approaching. Each one of them felt a chill in their hearts. They held their breaths and unknowingly made way to enter the Sutra Collection Hall. They all watched him off. Xiaoping'an calmly entered the Sutra Collection Hall. So powerful. Isn't this a strong man who has mastered divine skills? The vague discussion behind him made Xiaoping'an feel dazed for a moment. He had only been in Wolong territory for a short time, but he was already different from other demigods without knowing it. The main hall at the entrance of the Sutra Collection Hall was as grand as ever, gorgeous and quiet. Xiaoping'an passed through the main hall and went directly to the Green Tower in the Sutra Collection Hall. The Green Tower was the rest area of the Sutra Collection Hall, where discussions on various matters were gathered. It's a very free space for topics and news. Xiaoping'an had just entered the Green Tower when he heard a slightly excited voice coming from the tower. The side of the dominant demon god is mobilizing an army and countless strong men to go to the Huantian territory to kill Xiaoping'an. In the current Huantian territory, in addition to the phantom insect clan that was entrenched in it before, there is also the army of the dominant demon god. It has become extremely dangerous now. I don't think it is a good choice for us to mobilize experts to go to the magic sky realm now. If the powerful masters of the demon god's army enter the magic sky realm, they will inevitably have friction and bloody battles with the phantom insect clan. We can definitely sit on the mountain and watch the tiger fight. Xiaoping'an entered the tower and saw hundreds of people gathered in the core area on the first floor of the tower. A man standing alone was talking loudly and explaining his views. There were many people listening nearby. My opinion is contrary to yours. The person who just spoke just finished speaking, and immediately a man said, I heard that the Lord Demon God's side had previously mobilized to kill Xiaoping'an and prevent Xiaoping'an from entering the land of the Divine Seal. A strong person at the level of a god is extremely abnormal and rare. The dominant demon god tried so hard to kill Xiaoping'an. There must be reasons we don't know. We must not be able to achieve the goal that the enemy wants to achieve. Let him achieve it. This is the core of the war. No matter what, we must not let them succeed. I think we should confront each other tit for tat now, and also send experts and strong men into the Huantian realm to save Xiaoping'an and delay the actions of the dominant demon god. We can't just sit back and watch Xiaoping'an being killed by the strong man who dominates the demon god's side. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1034. The hottest discussion topic in the rest tower of the Sutra Collection Hall was related to himself. The scene in front of him reminded Xiaoping'an of the discussion scene in the lecture theater when he was at school. This is an open discussion topic, and people around you are listening and expressing their opinions. Xiaoping'an thought to himself that he had indeed come to the right place. He did not say anything, but calmly came to the discussion circle, found a place to sit down, and listened quietly. He was now very eager to know and himself relevant information. There was actually another self appearing in the Huantian realm of the Divine Seal land, and making such a big noise. This situation was really weird for Xiaopingan. But what I have to admit is that this weird misunderstanding is actually very beneficial to me. This objectively reduces the danger caused by my exposure. Since Xiaopingan is already in the fantasy realm, I am now safer. And who is that Xiaopingan? But those who were discussing had no idea that the protagonist of the topic they were discussing was right next to them, listening. Isn't this strange? The Overlord Demon God has issued a kill order for Xiaopingan. I heard that this kill order was not issued recently, but that the Lord Demon God was already there when Xiaopingan was still an ordinary summoner. They are chasing him. Now the Demon Lord's order to kill Xiaopingan has even spread throughout the Kingdom of God. All new secret mandalas will be surrounded and suppressed. In this case, how could Xiaopingan expose himself? Was the whereabouts of the Huantian realm discovered by the Demon Lord? I also find it strange. The Huantian realm is indeed a good place to hide. It is understandable if Xiaopingan hides somewhere, but why he was exposed again, and I heard that he actually killed the leader of the demon god in the Huantian realm. There are many masters and strong men. If I am not mistaken, Xiaopingan is just a novice who has just entered the land of the Divine Seal. Even if he is lucky enough to get the forbidden armor, how can he comprehend the divine skills and dominate the demon god's side to enter the fantasy world? The masters in this place are all strong men who have understood the divine skills. How can a newcomer like Xiaopingan be their opponent? I feel weird too. Could this be a smoke bomb and conspiracy released by the dominant demon god? Perhaps the overlord demon god is using Xiaopingan's story to spread doubts, and then sets a trap to lure us to the magic sky realm to rescue Xiaopingan. Maybe, if we really go, we may fall into the Dominion demon god's side instead. In the trap. That makes sense. Everyone was talking about it. Just now, everyone was still debating whether to rescue Xiaopingan, but as the discussion deepened, the topic quickly shifted to the identification of the Xiaopingan who appeared in the fantasy realm, because if that's Xiaopingan, if it is false, then the fantasy realm may be a trap. In the midst of everyone's discussion, a stern-faced old man in the crowd suddenly coughed twice and turned his attention to himself. Everyone, I just contacted my friends in the Magic Sky realm yesterday. I probably know a little bit about the situation. The Xiaopingan who appeared in the Magic Sky realm is definitely Xiaopingan himself. He is from the army that dominates the demon god's side. The exact news came from the internet, and the actions of the overlord demon god this time were heard to be the highest order from the overlord demon god. The old man squinted his eyes and looked around, the reason why Xiaopingan was dominated this time in the fantasy realm. The strong man from the demon god's side discovered his whereabouts because Xiaopingan seized a bronze treasure tree that had just been discovered by the demon god's side in the fantasy realm. Ah, the bronze treasure tree. Everyone was shocked. Xiaopingan was also slightly shocked, because the bronze treasure tree is the one in the Sutra Pagoda that has given birth to countless divine birds, and can activate the divine skills of demigods. Talisman treasure. Xiaopingan is just a newly promoted demigod. How can he be the opponent of those who have mastered the powerful spiritual skills on the side of the dominant demon? The person who just spoke asked again. Yes, Xiaopingan has indeed just entered the land of the Divine Seal not long ago. He only got a set of forbidden armor and has not yet mastered the divine skills. It stands to reason that he is indeed no match for the powerful ones who dominate the demon god's side, and it is impossible for him to succeed from those strong men seized treasures like the bronze treasure tree from their hands. But I heard that when Xiaopingan was fighting those strong men who dominated the demon god's side, a terrifying giant tower suddenly appeared in their hands. That giant tower was infinitely powerful and divine. Mighty, it seems to be a treasure of the first level of an artifact. Xiaopingan smashed it with a giant tower, and all of a sudden many strong men who dominated the demon god side were blown to pieces. In the end, among the strong masters who dominated the demon god's side, there was only one god-level strong man. He barely managed to escape despite being seriously injured, so the news about Xiaoping's stay in the fantasy realm was leaked out. It was the demon lord's side who confirmed his identity through the giant tower artifact in Xiaoping's hand. This news may be revealed to everyone in a few days. I can hear it. I see. Giant tower artifact? Xiaoping was confused when he heard this, and there were huge waves in his heart. How could the guy who appeared in the fantasy realm have such a treasure as the divine prison tower in his hands? Could it be that there is more than one giant tower treasure, and he is not the only one who owns it? If not, that person can really fake himself, then his understanding of himself is too terrifying. He can even create one in the giant tower of the divine prison? That person can kill the strong man who dominates the demon god's side. This at least shows that that person's camp is not the demon god's side. Could it be that the heavenly Deo Dominator uses his whereabouts to make a move in the fantasy realm? It's just that no one else but yourself can know your whereabouts and identity, right? There was so much mystery and weirdness in it that Xiaoping, who heard the news, couldn't figure out the mystery for a while, but one thing is certain, this matter is beneficial to him and harmless. In addition to the discovery of Xiaoping's whereabouts, I heard that someone in the kingdom of God also discovered the suspected location of Xiaoping's secret mandala. Among the crowd, someone else said something shocking, which made people immersed in thinking. Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat and he quickly looked at the person who spoke. The speaker was a woman wearing a bird-shaped metal mask. Her identity was unclear. But before Xiaoping could ask, the person next to her could not help but ask the question that Xiaoping wanted to ask. Oh, where is Xiaoping's secret mandala? It's not confirmed yet whether it is Xiaoping's secret mandala. It's just a suspicion. I heard that the location of the mandala is deep in the Blood and Bone Ancestral Mountain. The Blood and Bone Ancestral Mountain is one of the 72 ancestral mountains in the Kingdom of God. Hearing the name of Blood Bone Ancestral Mountain, many people took a breath of cold air, but Xiaoping breathed a sigh of relief. If Xiaoping's secret mandala is really in the Blood and Bone Ancestral Mountain, it will be difficult to destroy his secret mandala. No matter how many armies march into the Blood and Bone Ancestral Mountain, they will be swallowed up by the Blood and Bone Ancestral Mountain. I heard that the Blood and Bone Ancestral Mountain Gozu Mountain is a terrifying formation of flesh and blood. Except for the natives who were born in the mandala in the mountain, it is difficult for outsiders and troops to enter. Listening to this, Xiaoping's face remained as usual, but he couldn't help but murmur in his heart. The thing he was most worried about before was actually resolved by Xiaoping, who suddenly appeared. This was simply too strange. If there weren't so many people here, he could hardly hold back his laughter. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1035. One day more than 2 months later, in a private reading room in a Buddhist scripture tower in the Buddhist scripture hall. Brilliant rays of light suddenly appeared in the reading room. In the golden light, golden lotus flowers continued to emerge. The golden lotus flowers bloomed, and then mysterious characters were spit out from the stamens of the lotus flowers. After the light and shadow of the lotus dissipated, images of ginseng, Ganoderma lucidum, Poria cocos, and other exotic flowers and plants from all over the universe continued to appear in the light and shadow, with different colors, and various changes occurred. In the core of the light and shadow, Xiaoping was sitting cross-legged on the ground. A simple and thick rosewood-colored classic was floating in front of him. There were several variant characters in the shape of flower garlands on the classic. The variant characters were exquisite and unusual. It is the secret language of a strange clan of elves in the universe. If translated, the name of this classic secret book is Controlling Plants. This secret book contains secret methods for controlling various plants with divine power, thoughts, and even soul power. This controlling planting scripture was originally the highest secret book of the elves, but in this scripture collection hall, for the powerful demigods who can come here, this controlling planting scripture is a waste of military merit points. Something you can learn. Xiaopinggan did not understand the strange words in the Control of Plant Sutra before, but after this period of systematic study in the Sutra Collection Hall, Xiaopinggan now masters various languages that have a long heritage in the universe. There are already hundreds of them, and now, he is looking at this classic secret book written in the secret words of the ancient elven high priest with great interest. For a strong demigod with photographic memory, learning and mastering the languages of other races is too simple. As long as you have the conditions to learn and spend some time, you can learn it very quickly. It is no exaggeration to say that, Xiaopinggan can now be regarded as almost the top master of language and writing in the universe, but for a strong demigod, this is nothing to show off, just an ordinary skill. While Xiaopinggan was looking at the classic secret book, he was condensing various strange handprints on his hands. He was also uttering strange high-frequency spells that only he could hear. He was also visualizing the ancient elven secret symbols representing various plants in his consciousness. Under the blessing of his handprints and spells, this private reading room was filled with light, divine power fluctuated and appeared, and from time to time, the secret patterns of light and shadow of various plants emerged. If it weren't for the private reading room in the Sutra storage tower that can isolate all the breath and fluctuations inside, the movement here might have attracted the attention of people outside. Under the influence of Xiaopinggan's secret method, countless plant buds and leaves sprouted on the wooden desk and wooden floor in the private reading room. The vitality of the wooden materials that had become the desk and floor was miraculously activated again. In just a moment, this private reading room became like a garden, with green branches and leaves everywhere. For more than 2 months, Xiaopinggan, who was repairing in Wolong territory, spent most of his time in the Sutra Collection Hall, frantically reading various classic secrets in the Sutra Collection Hall, absorbing all kinds of knowledge and secrets here like a sponge. What a joy! The controlling planting sutra floating in the void finally automatically turned to the last page. Xiaopinggan also made the last mantra and uttered a multi-syllable symbolizing the completion of the secret practice of the controlling planting sutra by the high priest of the ancient elves. High-frequency blessing spell Savan Ha. Afterwards, the small private reading room was filled with the scent of flowers, and among the branches and leaves emerging from the table and floor, flowers bloomed in brilliant purples and reds. This controlling plants is really magical. Plants are also sentient beings and can be controlled and influenced like animals. If according to the standards of the ancient elves, I should be considered their prehistoric high priest now, Xiaopinggan smiled slightly, and used his thoughts to let the secret book of controlling plants fall on a pile of flowers. Then he stretched out his hand, pushed aside a few green leaves and twigs in front of him, and pressed the bell on the table. One wall of the reading room gently slid open, revealing a hidden internal passage. A puppet machine came out, glanced at the changes in the reading room in surprise, and then asked respectfully, "Do you need to borrow other secret classics, what?" Xiaopinggan shook his head. Over the past 2 months, all the military merit points he had accumulated had been consumed in the Sutra Collection Hall. In addition to military merit points, a lot of divine power points were also consumed, but it was all worth it. The joy of learning is really intoxicating. No need, just take this classic back. By the way, I would also like to trouble you to clean up the room. I was immersed in the secret method just now, and the secret method affected the furnishings in the room, Xiaopinggan said to the puppet machine. Okay, the puppet machine nodded. Xiaopinggan then left the reading room and the scripture tower. When walking out of the Sutra Depository Tower, Xiaopinggan discovered that there was heavy snow falling outside the Sutra Depository Tower, and the sky and the earth were covered in silver. Many of the flying snowflakes fell on the Sutra Depository Towers, making those mysterious. The majestic Sutra Depository Tower had a different kind of human flavor, and the entire sutra depository hall was exceptionally peaceful at this moment. He stayed in this tower for 5 consecutive days, but to his surprise, it actually snowed outside. "Is it snowing?" Xiaopinggan said to himself. He stretched out his hand and took a few crystal snowflakes. The snowflakes were slightly cold in his hands. This cold taste made Xiaopinggan suddenly feel like yawning, and he felt homesick. It came out, remembering that when it snowed before, as long as he and Xiaoning were together, the two of them would always have snowball fights, build snowmen, and cook hot pot on snowy days. The two brothers and sisters lived in that simple rental house, eating their own food. The simple hot pot they made was the happiest time for the two brothers and sisters. Yesterday's scene was repeated before his eyes, causing Xiaopinggan to stand in front of the door of the scripture pagoda for a moment. Then, Xiaopinggan took a long breath and walked down the steps. Rustle. Xiaopinggan had not experienced the sound of stepping on the snow and the touch of the soles of his feet for a long time. This feeling would make people feel peaceful. After just 2 steps, Xiaopinggan stopped again, and his eyes narrowed slightly. The look on his face was indescribable. Because Xiaopinggan discovered that another magical talisman of a divine skill in his ancient god's heart was quietly fused by him at this moment, and he unknowingly mastered a brand new divine skill. The talisman of the newly fused divine skill comes from the Xuanhuan clan, and the name of the divine skill is Creation Furnace. This divine skill can be called the pinnacle of alchemy. He can collect the essence of all things in the world and condense it into the top divine elixir in the void without using any tools. This furnace of creation divine skill seems to have some connection with the secret method of the control of planting that he mastered. Because he mastered the controlling of planting, the divine skills left by Xuanhuan were actually integrated. It seems to be particularly easy to fuse and master divine skills by oneself. In battle, in the process of fusing world beads, or even when one masters other secret techniques, it can become an opportunity for one to master divine skills. Xiaopinggan stood stunned in the snow for a moment, and then walked towards the outside of the Sutra Collection Hall as if nothing had happened. "Brother Long." As soon as he walked into the entrance hall of the Sutra Collection Hall, a familiar voice sounded in Xiaopinggan's ears. Xiaopinggan turned his head and saw Gu Xinyi walking away from the side hall behind him. "Come out." Gu Xinyi, who had not been seen for a long time, was much more capable. There seemed to be a faint scar on his slightly thin face. His aura had a sharpness honed on the battlefield, like a pack of wolves fighting among each other. "The Wolf King comes out." Xiaopinggan didn't know what Gu Xinyi had gone through, but he felt that Gu Xinyi was stronger than before. "Brother Gu, long time no see, what a coincidence," Xiaopinggan smiled at Gu Xinyi. The corner of Gu Xinyi's mouth twitched slightly, and she was already smiling. "I got a chance to get the divine skills and talismans again. I just came back yesterday, and I can choose the talisman in a few days." "Congratulations, Brother Gu," Xiaopinggan said sincerely. "I have been in the Huozu realm. Is Brother Long fighting in the Storm realm?" "Maybe it won't be long before I can fight side by side with Brother Long in the Storm realm," Gu Xinyi came over and said. The Storm realm is another battlefield that most of the demigods who have just obtained the forbidden armor go to. This battlefield is actually much less dangerous than the Black Dragon realm. Those who enter the Black Dragon realm basically have mastered divine skills. Or that group of demigods who are about to master divine skills. I also look forward to one day fighting side by side with Brother Gu. Xiaopinggan did not tell Gu Xinyi the truth because he was afraid of damaging Gu Xinyi's confidence. The two stood in the main hall of the Sutra Collection Hall and chatted for a few words before they separated. Under the heavy snow, Xiaopinggan left the Sutra Collection Hall and flew towards his cave. Just as he arrived at Feiyun Mountain, Xiaopinggan saw 2 strange demigods and Mo Xiang standing beside him. At the entrance of the cave, it seemed that he was waiting for his return. Xiaopinggan landed and walked over. Mo Xiang smiled helplessly at Xiaopinggan, and then looked at the 2 people beside him. This person is Xuanhuan of Team 179, then, Mo Ziyang introduced the two people to Xiaopinggan. Ahem, Xuanhuan, these two are from the listening group, and I have something to ask you. Listening group? Xiaopinggan was also stunned for a moment. What were they doing here? Diding is a legendary mythical beast that can distinguish right from wrong, good and evil, and perceive people's hearts. The Diding group under the Lord of Heaven is equivalent to the disciplinary inspection and military police department in the army, and it has very powerful powers. I have never had any interaction with the listening group, so why would the listening group come to see me? Judging from the expression on Mo Ziyang's face, it seemed not a good thing. Xuanhuan, right? We are the investigators of the listening group. The man standing on the left of Mo Ziyang took out a crystal clear talisman badge of the listening group to prove his identity, and let Xiaopinggan take a look. There is one thing that requires you to return to the listening team station with us for investigation. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1036. When he followed the two investigators of the listening group back to the listening group, Xiaopinggan's heart suddenly dropped to his stomach because he discovered that the two investigators of the listening group could allow him to wear the taboo war of flies with them. Being allowed to wear the forbidden armor is an attitude of the listening group, because if a truly serious problem is encountered, the subject under investigation will not be allowed to wear the forbidden armor. Xiaopinggan also carefully recalled all his words and deeds after coming to Wolong's territory, and there was nothing out of line or forbidden, so he dealt with it calmly. The wind and snow in the sky were coming, and the four people were flying in the air like four bolts of lightning, flying towards the station of the Diding group. In addition to Xiaopinggan, Mo Ziyang was also asked to go to the Diding group together. Captain, what's going on? Xiaopinggan, who was flying in the air, quietly sent a message to Mo Ziyang. I didn't know that I was brought here by the two of them when I was having a party with my friends, just waiting for you to come back. Mo Ziyang also replied in a somewhat depressed tone, and besides the two of us, Nan he also has Zi Ling was also taken away by people from Ting Ting, and Qin Li just sent me news that all the members of their team were also taken away by people from Ting Ting. Qin Li and the others were all taken away. Xiaopinggan was a little surprised. Is there any problem with our procedures for leaving the Black Dragon territory war zone? Yes, there is no problem with the procedures for our departure. We have been completely satisfied with military achievements and so on. I guess, it may be. Mo Ziyang hesitated to speak. What is it? Your divination ability may have been leaked. Mo Ziyang said in a muffled voice. Ah, how is that possible? Xiaopinggan was also stunned. This was something he had never imagined. Nothing is impossible. After much thought, our members of Team 179 have not violated any of Black Flame's prohibitions, and this time even Lao Qin and the others have become the targets of the investigation. This shows that the matter investigated by Diting is not of a personal nature. Is an issue that both our teams are involved in, and the things that both teams are involved in are the results of our joint operations in the Black Dragon territory, and your divination ability has dominated the joint operations of the two teams. Ahem. Mo Ziyang was talking. A listening investigator flying beside the two of them seemed to sense something. He coughed twice, glanced at Mo Ziyang, and reminded, if you have anything to say, please listen carefully. Let's talk to the team, don't make things difficult for us. If you two communicate in private, you are already suspected of colluding. If you do this again, we can only take measures to block your perception. Upon hearing this, Mo Ziyang stopped talking, and Xiaopinggan stopped talking. The four demigods were flying rapidly in the air. Just an hour later, a towering mountain range appeared on the horizon directly in front of the four people's sight. On top of the mountain range, there was a huge golden building standing there. That golden building, in the square in front of the building, there is a huge and powerful statue of a mythical beast standing there. The statue of the mythical beast is very strange. It has a tiger head, a unicorn, a dog's ears, a dragon's body, a lion's tail, and a unicorn's feet. It looks like a dragon but not a dragon. A tiger but not a tiger, a lion but not a lion, a unicorn but not a unicorn, a dog but not a dog. This image is exactly the sacred beast of Dieting, and this is where the Dieting group is based. People come and go from time to time in the golden building, some people fly away, some people fly in, it is busy and strict. The 4 people landed at the door of the Dieting team station. The 2 investigators from Dieting took Xiaopinggan and Mo Xiang into the golden building. Then the 2 investigators asked Xiaopinggan and Mo Xiang to separate, and 1 investigated the officer took each person to a different room. Xiaopinggan was taken to a room. The room didn't look big from the outside, but the room was expanded to thousands of square meters using space magic, like a huge football field. There is a seat in the middle of this huge room that can accommodate people, and around that seat, there are high platforms and seats like a courtroom, full of a sense of oppression. Sit here for a moment, the interrogators will arrive soon, the attentive investigator who brought Xiaopinggan pointed to the seat in the middle of the room and said to Xiaopinggan. Let me ask, are the other members of Squad 179 and Qin Li Squad also being questioned at this moment? Xiaopinggan asked. Yes, they were questioned separately in other rooms. Let me give you a suggestion. Don't hide anything from the interrogator's questions. Xiaopinggan didn't speak, just nodded, then sat in the middle of the room and waited quietly. After waiting for less than 5 minutes, the door of the room opened, and 3 people wearing listening masks and black robes walked in. They sat at the 3 inquiry seats in front of Xiaopinggan and looked down at Xiaopinggan. The old man sitting in the middle did not talk nonsense, he waved his hand directly, the summoner's magic light lit up, and the next second, a huge roar sounded in the room, and a listening statue that looked exactly like the statue standing in the square outside the divine beast was summoned. The divine beast circled Xiaopinggan twice, looked at Xiaopinggan with burning eyes, and then squatted directly behind Xiaopinggan, looking down at Xiaopinggan, as if be prepared to listen attentively. Can you actually summon a divine beast like Ditang? Xiaopinggan looked at the summoned Ting Ting, but what he was thinking about was how to integrate the world beads that could summon Ting Ting. Now the formal inquiry begins. The sacred beast of listening has arrived. As a witness and protector of this inquiry, from now on, the person being questioned must be responsible for every word you say. If you lie when being questioned by listening, it will bring consequences. Serious consequences. The hoarse voice of the masked man in black robes who summoned listening came from behind the mask. I will be responsible for what I said, Xiaopinggan nodded calmly. Are you Long Huan from Team 179? Yes, Xiaopinggan nodded. Demigods who entered the Crouching Dragon territory can use pseudonyms and wear masks. The names here are actually more like code names, so Xiaopinggan's answer is not illegal. Then, please briefly introduce the battles between you and Squad 179 in the Black Dragon territory, the interrogator asked again. Xiaopinggan also briefly talked about the battles and achievements he and Team 179 experienced after entering the Black Dragon territory, and also talked about some battles after joining forces with Qin Li and his team. Is there anything else you need to add? No. Did you use divination to predict the enemy's actions in these battles? An interrogator who had been silent suddenly asked, and the voice seemed to be that of a woman. Sure enough, it has something to do with my divination skills? Xiaopinggan only thought for a few seconds, then nodded and admitted directly, yes, I used my divination skills to judge the enemy's actions during the battle, as a reference for our battles and actions. The 3 interrogators looked at each other when they heard this. What are the results of your divination? Have you never made a mistake in your judgment? Another silent interrogator asked slowly, this voice was full of majesty. At least the battles in the Black Dragon territory proved that my divination skills did not make mistakes, Xiaoping'an replied. Did you know that powerful demigods are born with the ability to be immune to divination and have the ability to resist divination? No. Then why can your divination skills predict the actions of your opponent's powerful demigod? This may have something to do with the world beads I fused. Different world beads will react with each other and produce new changes after fusion. This change has improved my divination ability. As for the specific changes, what did I fuse? Boundary Pearl, this is the secret of my secret mandala, I have no comment, Xiaoping'an said calmly. You don't have to answer questions about the secret mandala, the hoarse-voiced interrogator sitting in the middle said. What is the direct reason for your withdrawal from the Black Dragon territory war zone this time? Is it related to your divination skills? Yes, my divination skills revealed that our team is being targeted by a strong person of the enemy's first level. Our team is not a match for the god. If the two teams continue to stay on the battlefield, there will be bad luck, so, after meeting the military merit requirements of the Black Flame tribe to withdraw from the battlefield, I suggested that Mo Ziyang, the captain of the 179 squad, and Qin Li, the captain of the strengthening squad, evacuate the Black Dragon territory and rest for a while. In view of the correctness of my past divination results, they accepted my suggestion. Xiaoping'an took the responsibility of the two teams leaving the Black Dragon territory directly on himself. There was silence in the room for another half-minute. Then, the man sitting on the right side in front of Xiaoping'an suddenly took off the listening mask on his face, revealing an old and majestic man's face. As the listening mask was removed from his face, at the same moment, a sacred golden halo suddenly appeared behind the man's head, and the aura of a god-level powerful man suddenly appeared on his body, surging silently in the room. In the small room, like a sudden influx of a sun, its dazzling light brought a huge sense of oppression to Xiaoping'an. A god-level powerhouse is actually a god-level powerhouse? Xiaoping'an was shocked. This was the first time that he was so close to a god-level powerhouse. Within this distance, Xiaoping'an could even faintly feel the terrifying, majestic and powerful god that existed in that person's secret mandala. The pressure brought by the flames to his secret mandala, the pressure brought by the divine flames, was like the magnetic field of a magnet, causing Xiaoping'an's secret mandala and Lingxiao city to vibrate, like an earthquake. The divine flame is the symbol of the gods. The so-called gods are actually gradually approaching the gods in some aspects. The god suddenly stretched out his hand, clenched his fist, and said slowly, "Now, use your divination skills to divine what is in my hand." You don't have to name it, as long as you can divine the attribute characteristics of this thing: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. After closing his eyes and remaining silent for half a minute, Xiaoping'an opened his eyes and said calmly, "The thing in your hand has two properties, gold and earth, and it also has the sign of Kun. It should be some kind of jewelry for women." The god sighed softly and opened his palm. In his palm was a simple and green ordinary jade ring, but a corner of the jade ring was missing and was repaired with gold. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1037. A jade ring that looked ordinary and even a little shabby, at this moment, gathered the eyes of everyone in the room, and the whole room was strangely quiet for a few seconds. The next moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Xiaoping'an's face again, and the air in the room became slightly hot. The powerful ones at the level of God are the closest to the gods. They are more capable of anti-divination. Xiaoping'an can divine things in the hands of the god, which is a bit unnatural for those who understand. Sure enough, I can divine the actions of a first-level divine master. Okay, very good. The divine master nodded, and with a move of his hand, he put away the jade ring on his palm, and then put it on again. Diting's mask covered his face, and the moment he put on the mask, the sacred aperture behind his head disappeared. This made Xiaoping'an have to doubt that the function of the mask might be to make people these powerful gods suppress the aura of gods behind their heads that could reveal their identity. Could it be that the three gods are questioning him? Xiaoping'an looked at the three people sitting in front of him, his eyes slightly wandering. Xiaoping'an vaguely felt that this inquiry seemed a bit complicated. Do you have any restrictions on the actions of a first-level powerhouse like the god of divination? Another person in the room asked. There are restrictions, Xiaoping'an nodded. The higher the correlation with me, the more accurate the divination result will be. If it is not relevant to me or has a low correlation, the divination will be difficult and the result will be more ambiguous. The three interrogators looked at each other and nodded, seemingly acquiescing to Xiaoping'an's words. If possible, can you show us your divination props? Of course, this is related to your secret mandala. We have no right to force you to reveal your secrets. You can also refuse, asked the suspected female Xuanhuan said. Okay, Xiaoping'an nodded, and with a wave of his hand, he summoned the performance tower. The mysterious performance tower appeared in the room, silent and motionless, with an unspeakable ethereal aura, making it even more unfathomable. Several other people in the room looked at the performance building with strange eyes, as if they wanted to see the performance building clearly. How much divine power does a divination consume? At least 6,000 points, but it could be more. 6,000 points. The three interrogators looked at each other again, and seemed to be shocked by this number, because even for a strong demigod, this number is very scary. Many strong demigods can recover their divine power every month. The points are all below 30,000, which means that if divination is so expensive, it will be very difficult for them to only divination 4 or 5 times a month. Ordinary divination techniques consume between 100 and 800 points of divine power. It is very rare to consume more than 1,000 points. The god who just took out the jade ring sighed softly and shook his head slightly. No wonder your divination is so powerful. It turns out that it also consumes a lot of money. It is difficult for ordinary demigods to support such divination. How do you support it? A strong demigod can recover 30,000 to 40,000 points of divine power every month. If you take into account the consumption of the secret mandala and the reserves required for combat, this amount of divine power is actually very scarce. Xiaoping'an glanced at the three of them. Ahem, I have entered the God of War arena before, and I have some achievements in the God of War arena. I can recover more than 70,000 extra points of divine power every month, so I can barely use it. The three interrogators were once again shocked by this number. Recover an additional 70,000 points of divine power. The interrogator's voice was obviously surprised, even a little unbelievable. As the interrogator spoke, he glanced at Diting, who was standing next to Xiaoping'an, and found that Diting had no reaction. And then asked, how many games have you won in the God of War arena? Xiaoping'an touched his nose. If I remember correctly, it should be 89 consecutive wins. 89 games. There was silence in the room for a while again, and Xiaoping'an seemed to hear someone taking a slight breath of air. After half a minute, the god spoke. With 89 consecutive wins in the God of War arena, you have broken the Wolong leader's record of consecutive wins in the God of War arena. The highest record before you was 67 games. It has been maintained for more than 50,000 years. Why didn't you go to the temple to report it? Report, is this necessary? Xiaoping'an asked a little confused. Before, he really didn't know that his winning streak in the God of War arena had this benefit. It seems you don't know that if you can break this record, you will get a special reward from the temple. Well, I should have time to report now. No one should be able to break my record. As soon as he heard the temple's reward, Xiaoping'an suddenly became energetic and his eyes shone, tens of thousands of years. I have broken the record, so the reward should be quite a lot anyway. I have gained face for Wolong leader. Is the temple going to reward me with an artifact? The specific rewards are determined by the temple. The powerful deity took a deep look at Xiaoping'an and said calmly, "Okay, that's the end of the inquiry. If nothing happens, you can leave. During this period, you should not leave Wolong territory and wait for new orders." The listening beast beside Xiaoping'an disappeared and was recalled to the secret mandala. The three people who asked had already stood up and were ready to leave. "Can I ask, why did the listening team think of calling me, the people from Team 179, and Team Qin Li for questioning?" Xiaoping'an asked a follow-up question. The god who was about to leave turned his head and glanced at Xiaoping'an. During this period, the intelligence collectors in the Black Dragon territory discovered that there were god-level powerful men who dominated the demon god's side, and there were two of them. Those two gods, super strong men, seemed to be searching for our battle team in the Black Dragon territory while avoiding fighting with our divine master. This situation is very abnormal, and your record in the Black Dragon territory during this period is very eye-catching, so we are looking for come and find out the specific situation. So, Xiaoping'an finally understood that it was not him who had exposed anything, but the whereabouts of the two powerful enemy gods who were chasing Team 179 and Qin Li team that attracted their attention, so they wanted to confirm the reason. The questioning process went smoothly without any surprises. After the three people left, Xiaoping'an walked out of the room. Although the process went smoothly, Xiaoping'an had a vague feeling that this matter might have a great impact on him. His divination ability was exposed to the eyes of the senior leaders of Wolong territory. It would be abnormal if they did not make use of such ability. The powerful god just now told him not to leave Wolong territory during this period, which also illustrates this point. When Xiaoping'an walked to the hall, he found that everyone from Mo Xiang, Nan He, Zi Ling and Qin Li's team were here. 10 people and 10 pairs of eyes were all looking at Xiaoping'an. "We haven't seen each other for a long time, but we didn't expect to be here together again today. Are you okay?" Mo Xiang asked with concern. "I'm okay," Xiaoping'an glanced at everyone. "Are you okay too?" "We are fine, but we were all questioned separately, and each requested a complete account of all the battles and details in the Black Dragon territory." Mo Xiang glanced at Xiaoping'an with some embarrassment. "Your matter, I can't hide it anymore, so I can only confess it." Everyone was talking using the art of sound transmission, so there was no need to worry about leaking anything and being overheard by others. "I can guarantee that no one in our team has disclosed Brother Long Huan's divination ability to anyone, and I don't know why it attracted the attention of the listening team this time," Qin Li explained via voice transmission from the side, with a depressed look on his face. "This matter has nothing to do with you." "I know the reason," Xiaoping'an glanced at everyone. "We haven't seen each other for a long time. We just happened to get together today. I will tell you all then. Let's go." Viang Tower. Golden Summoner. Author, Zyu. Chapter 1038. Although Mo Xiang and others were mentally prepared, the next day, when Team 179 officially received the notice from the Black Flame Department, Mo Xiang, who was holding the notice above, could only smile bitterly before sending it. He signed and stamped the notice, and then watched as the notice lit up with the light of the spell, and then turned into flames and dissipated little by little in his hand. The strange summoned beast that delivered the notice was a huge snow-white parrot. There was also a postman-like bag hanging on the parrot. In the bag, there were items that needed to be delivered within the Wolong collar. Ordinary official documents. After these ordinary official documents are officially signed, the representative has conveyed the message, the magic in the paper will be activated, and the official documents will dissipate into ashes. The notice has been delivered to Team 179 and signed for it. The notification has been delivered to Team 179 and signed for it. The big snow-white parrot repeated it twice in a standard human voice, and then flapped its wings and braved the wind and snow. He flew into the sky from the entrance of Mo Xiang's cave. "Oh, this is too fast." The listening team that just went there yesterday didn't wait even a day. The good days of our 179 team have only been a few days. What if? Nan he couldn't help but muttered next to him. He looked at Xiaoping and glanced at him, but didn't say the next words. I thought I would have to wait at least a few days. Ziling acted very calmly. After returning from the listening group yesterday, everyone already had such a hunch. Long Huan's divination is too powerful. Such a person has already it's not suitable to stay in Team 179 anymore. It may hurt people's self-esteem to say it, but the above idea is probably that they feel that Team 179 is no longer worthy of acting with Xiaopingen. If Xiaopingen encounters danger, such as meeting the god again, a level 179 team is unable to rescue him. The combination on the battlefield needs to complement each other's strengths and exert the effect of 1 + 1 greater than 2. However, they no longer have the strength to complement Xiaopingen's divination skills. It was already noon of the next day. Last night, everyone gathered at Viang building. After returning, they had a good sleep. Early this morning, Xiaopingen was still resting in his cave when he received a message from Mo Xiang. Asking him to gather here. The other two members of Team 179 naturally received the message and came together. After the members of Team 179 arrived here, they saw the huge white parrot that came to deliver the notice. Then Mo Xiang read the notice above to everyone and signed for it. According to the notification requirements, from now on, Team 179 will resume its three-person establishment. A powerful demigod who has mastered divine skills arrived and upgraded Team 179 to a strengthened team. Previously, upgrading Team 179 to a strengthened team was something that Mo Xiang and the other two members of Team 179 had only dreamed of. The strengthened team would have more people and stronger combat power, and would be able to perform tasks in dangerous areas like the Black Dragon territory. Has a greater chance of survival, which is a good thing for everyone. If it were in the past, Mo Xiang would probably be so happy that he would laugh when he knew that Team 179 could be upgraded to a strengthened team, but at this moment, he couldn't laugh. This is some kind of compensation for Xiaopingen's departure from Team 179, and everyone in the team knows this. Mo Xiang smiled, but the expression on his face exposed under the mask looked a bit far-fetched, but he relaxed in the blink of an eye. Okay, don't say weird things, this is He Yan's order. No, there is room for bargaining. We have been on missions with Long Huan for so many days, and everyone has taken advantage. The current situation is a good thing for both us and Long Huan. In fact, what I am most worried about is that those who are with Long Huan over time, we will gradually lose the courage to face the unknown. Without courage, there is no hope of igniting the divine fire. How can there be any cowardly gods in the divine world? Hearing what Mo Xiang said, Nan he was startled and reacted immediately, almost breaking into a cold sweat. Ask yourselves, if there is another god-level strongman who targets Long Huan, who of you can escape unharmed when encountering danger? Mo Xiang continued, and he shook his head, at least I can't. From this point of view, Dragon Fantasy's ability can not only help us, but also bring us into dangerous situations. This has been proven in the Black Dragon territory, and this order actually protects us. Hearing what Mo Xiang said, Nan he, who originally had a look of dissatisfaction on his face, also figured it out. If Long Huan continues to be in Team 179, Team 179 will, in the eyes of some people, be the stupid kid who carries treasures through the busy city. Your ability is so incredible. Your superiors won't let you waste your talents. I wish you a bright future. When you get rich in the future, don't forget about us. Ziling was the first to laugh, using a relaxed tone. Said to Xiaopingen. Thank you for your care these days. I have learned a lot from you all during these days in Team 179, Xiaopingen did not pretend, but said to the three of them with a hint of regret, "To be honest, if you can, I also want to continue to stay in Team 179, but I am also worried that because of me, I will bring everyone into a more dangerous situation, which is against my will. Okay, don't make it look like we are parting from each other. We will still be friends from now on. Let's get together more often when we have time." "Yes, what a big deal. In the military, it's normal to get together and disperse," Nan he said loudly and deliberately. Mo Zhang smiled, patted Xiaoping's shoulder, and his tone turned solemn again. "I estimate that in a few days, there will be new tasks for you to choose from. As someone who has experienced it, I will give you a suggestion. Don't be brave. Since the dominant demon god has sent god-level warriors to deal with you, the enemies you will encounter in the future may not be ordinary people. After all, divination is only an auxiliary spell and cannot fight on your behalf. And no matter how powerful the auxiliary spells are, there will be times when they are beyond their capabilities, so don't rely too much on these auxiliary spells and forget to improve your combat power." "Okay, thank you, Captain, I understand," Xiaoping nodded. "I know you are collecting world beads. We had prepared this before. We wanted to find an opportunity to give it to you as a surprise." Unexpectedly, the people from the listening group came first. "Now is the time," Mo Zhang said, and with a move of his hand, he took out a transparent crystal box. In that box, there were 3 shimmering world beads and 3 opposite spiritual crystals, also. "I don't know if you have ever fused these world beads. Just treat them as one mind. The spiritual crystal corresponding to the world beads is quite difficult to find. We also spent a lot of effort. Okay, you two can take it out too." Nanhe and Ziling moved their hands and each took out a crystal box. In the crystal box, there were 3 different world beads and 3 spiritual crystals. "Before, the captain said that your divination skills must have consumed a lot of money. I gave you the divine crystal to compensate you, but you didn't want it, so I just wanted to get you something to improve your strength." Nanhe grinned, "Thanks to you before, we only then can he achieve so many military exploits in the Black Dragon territory so easily. If you dare to refuse, we will never be friends again." Ziling snorted coldly, "Humph, don't know what's good and what's good, I rarely give things to men." Although it was still snowing outside, Xiaoping felt warm in his heart. This is a true friend. "Okay, I'll accept it." Xiaoping looked at the 3 faces with various expressions, smiled slightly, and accepted the 3 crystal boxes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1039. Seeing Xiaoping generously accepting the boundary beads given by the 3 of them, Mo Zhang and the other 3 showed a smile on their faces. Sometimes, there is really no need to be too polite between friends. Although we won't go on missions in the same team from now on, let's see who among the 4 of you can be the first to become immortal and enter the gate of the Great Avenue, Mo Zhang said boldly. Whoever wants to become a god first can refine the artifacts. When the time comes, it's good to keep a few artifacts to let those who haven't become gods yet take advantage of them, Nanhe said with a carefree smile. Artifacts? Even for advanced gods, artifacts are not so easy to refine. Artifacts condense the laws of the Great Road. Do you think artifacts are cabbages on the roadside? Ziling gave Nanhe a cold look. If I want to advance to the level of a god, I'll deal with you first if I say this to you. Ziling is right, artifacts are not that easy to refine. Xiaoping smiled. I don't have anything to give to you, so I will give you a formation disc. I haven't fused this formation disc yet. Although it can't compare to a divine weapon, even if it encounters a powerful god below the 3rd level, it should be able to trap him for a day and a half. giving everyone a chance to evacuate. As Xiaoping'an spoke, he took out a 1-foot square formation disk with a layer of light purple brilliance and handed it to Mo Ziyang. This array is a life-saving means that Xiaoping'an has been refining since he encountered the powerful gods in the Black Dragon territory. The original prototype of this array was the Chaos Immortal Locking 10,000 Techniques Forbidden Formation, but this at that time, with Xiaoping'an's attainments and cultivation, the Chaos Locking Immortal 10,000 Techniques Forbidden Formation he refined was more than 100 times more powerful than before. The most important thing is that Xiaoping'an is still in this formation. There are a total of 49 layers of Chaos Locking Immortal 10,000 Techniques Forbidden Formation stacked up in the plate. This formation can defeat one layer and there will be another. Even if this formation cannot kill the powerful god, it can still defeat the three. There is absolutely no problem if a super powerful person is trapped for a day or two. Hearing Xiaoping'an say that this formation disk can actually trap a third-level divine master, Mo Ziyang, and the other three suddenly had horrified expressions on their faces. The level of the deity is divided by the number of condensed divine flames. Generally, it is from 1 flame to 9 flames, which corresponds to level 1 to 9. Every time a strong deity condenses one more ray of divine flame, the closer he is to the god, and his strength will increase. Being able to step up to a big step, under normal circumstances, the 9th level deity has the possibility to become a god at any time. However, under special circumstances, some 9th level deities have condensed the 9 flames and have not become a god but continue to condense the divine flames. Such a powerful god can reach level 10 or above, and his strength is unfathomable. Even if it is a first level god, as long as he has condensed a ray of divine flames and mastered the divine skills, his strength will already be 1 or 2 points of the power of the gods. This is no longer something that ordinary formations can trap, and Xiaoping'an took out this array can actually trap a third-level god. The value of such an array is indescribable. Although there are the highest level formation secrets in the Tibetan scripture hall, not everyone has the opportunity to learn the secrets. Even if they can learn them, they may not be able to master and understand them. Although everyone is a strong demigod in the Wolong territory, more or less, he knows a little bit about the formation method, but if anyone can refine the formation disk to trap the god, it is absolutely unique, so the preciousness of this formation disk is self-evident. At the critical moment, if you really encounter an ordinary powerful person at the level of a god, in a desperate situation, this formation disk is equivalent to giving everyone another life. Brother, I didn't expect that you are actually a top formation master and can refine such a formation disk, Nan he said in surprise, feeling that he could not see through Xiaoping'an at all. The ability of this formation disk was completely beyond his expectation. Xiaoping'an's divination ability is surprising enough, but he didn't expect Xiaoping'an's formation skills to be so amazing. It's not top-notch, it just involves a little bit of battle tactics, Xiaoping'an said modestly. Since this formation plate can save lives, I will not refuse and accept it for everyone. The mountains are high and the rivers are long. I won't say any polite words. It's just that you should keep this formation plate for yourself to save your life. You can give it to me. If you kill us, what will you do? Mo Ziyang took a deep look at Xiaoping'an, with a solemn expression on his face. Don't worry about my situation. Since I can refine the first one of this array, I can naturally refine the second one. I have no shortage of materials here. There are a lot of materials in the previous loot, and I've been resting in Wolong territory recently, so I can slowly find time to refine another one. Xiaoping'an also laughed. Okay, if you need any more raw materials for refining the formation plate, just tell me. Don't worry, I won't be polite. Mo Ziyang and the other two wanted to find a place to familiarize themselves with the changes and uses of the formation disk, while Xiaoping'an also wanted to find a place to integrate the boundary beads, so the four of them separated. Xiaoping'an returned to his cave training room and took out the 9 world beads. Among the 9 world beads, He had already fused 3 of them. There were only 6 world beads that could be fused, and these 6 among the world beads, 4 are ordinary divine power world beads, and only 2 are magical summoning world beads. One of the magic summoning world beads seems to have a river rolling in it, with 4 small words flashing in it, ZOTI Northern Expedition, and there is also a magical world bead with the small words Xuanhuan stands up to counter the rebellion in the middle. ZOTI's Northern Expedition, has this world bead finally arrived? Among these world beads, the one that really surprised Xiaoping'an was the ZOTI Northern Expedition world bead. He had fused ZOTI's Wenji Chiwu world pearl before, and what Xiaoping'an was looking forward to the most was ZOTI's Northern Expedition. He wanted to see if at that time, if he were ZOTI, he could complete a breakthrough fusion, the Northern Expedition. Recover the Central Plains. Xiaoping'an's habit of fusing the world beads was to start with the easier ones and then the more difficult ones. In less than 2 hours, Xiaoping'an completed the fusion of the 4 divine power world beads in the secret room. Afterwards, Xiaoping'an picked up the boundary bead that said Xuanhuan stood up to quell the rebellion. Xuanhuan, it is a pity that you were not rewarded for your meritorious service back then. This time I will see if I can help you win back the battle and compete with the worms and rubbish in the official circles of the Song dynasty. Xiaoping'an held the boundary pearl. Sighed. Xuanhuan is not a famous person in history. Many people may not know who this person is, but when it comes to his cousin-in-law, everyone may know him, that is Wang Xiu. Xuanhuan's uncle is Xuekui, who is Wang Xiu's father-in-law. The reason why Xuanhuan left a mark in history is because he was serving as the general magistrate of Hanzhou. He was not afraid of danger. With only one person's power, he quelled a military rebellion in the Hanzhou military camp and saved the people of Hanzhou city from suffering. Go to a sword disaster. But what is regrettable is that for this kind of contribution to saving the people of the city and quelling the rebellion, Xuanhuan did not receive any reward from the court in the end. The reason was that Hanzhou Qinsi, his Hu and others put Hanzhou into trouble. He concealed it and did not report it to the court. As a result, the court did not know about Xuanhuan's contribution to saving the city and did not reward him. The Song dynasty officials, who were trembling with fear and cowardly as helpless as a mouse during the military chaos, immediately became lively and energetic after the military chaos subsided, revealing their true nature as officials, hiding and suppressing Xuanhuan like this. The greater Xuanhuan's merit is, the more their incompetence and stupidity will be revealed. Historically, this has happened countless times. It took less than 20 minutes to fuse this world bead, and the light cocoon on Xiaoping'an's body was shattered. When Xiaoping'an opened his eyes flashed and he smiled slightly. This boundary bead was a breakthrough fusion, and the upper limit of new divine power exceeded 120 points. Among the boundary beads, if Xiaoping'an was killed by the rebels, Xuanhuan's contribution would be hidden. After a few officials were killed, the rebellion was quelled without any blood. Finally, Xiaoping'an merged with the world pearl of ZOTI's Northern Expedition. Dripping with blood, Xiaoping'an was once again surrounded by a cocoon of light in the blink of an eye. As soon as he opened his eyes, Xiaoping'an found himself standing on the bow of a large ship. The ship was sailing on the river, facing the wind and waves, and there were a large number of ships following him around and behind him. Unexpectedly, when ZOTI crossed the Yangtze River and went on an expedition to the north, the world bead would give him even less time than he expected. General, we are going to the northern expedition. The imperial court has not given any soldiers, weapons, or armor except for food and wages for 1,000 people and 3,000 pieces of cloth. The imperial court's attitude towards the northern expedition is like this. General is so persistent. Aren't you worried that you will never come back? A counselor next to him looked at Xiaoping'an and asked. Xiaoping'an was silent for a moment, and knocked on the boat's gun and said generously, the water in the river is rushing towards the sea, and it will never come back, So what is there to be afraid of? If I never go back, then I will never go back come back. Although he said this, in his heart, Xiaopinggan was fully prepared for what would happen in the future. The Sima family's court did not support the northern expedition, and its support for him was symbolic. Even so, but if you have made meritorious deeds, those who do not support the northern expedition will be the first to pick peaches and snatch the fruits of victory from the northern expedition. This is the cruel reality. In a decadent court, moths and rubbish are everywhere. Those rubbish and moths are like worms when facing their enemies, but like wolves when facing their own people. They have no other abilities, but when it comes to grabbing credit in the officialdom, they stumble. The Yin people are all masters of the set of tricks they use to torture people. Historically, Zhuoti's northern expedition went through many hard battles, defeated fierce enemies, and recovered the area south of the middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River. Just when the situation of the northern expedition improved and it was time for a big campaign, the imperial court, which had not supported Zhuoti's northern expedition before, after hearing that Zhuoti had conquered a large area of lost territory, he immediately sent people to seize the fruits of victory and became the governor. He kicked Zhuoti aside, who had made great contributions to conquering the lost territory, leaving Zhuoti to die in depression. To a certain extent, Zhuoti's fate is somewhat similar to that of Xuanhuan. Perhaps this is the reason why these two world beads happen to meet together. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1040. Zhuoti World Pearl is a breakthrough fusion. After leading his troops across the river, Xiaopinggan was stationed in Jiangjian, gathering refugees, recruiting soldiers and craftsmen, reorganizing and improving the army's establishment, training system and military merit system, and setting up a supervisor position in the army, similar to the instructors in the army in later generations, and political commissars, and directly formed the Xing'an army to target the foreign barbarians. As soon as the banner of the Xing'an army was raised, it instantly united the hearts of the people and attracted a large number of young and strong northern Han people and refugees to join. At that time, the northern Han people were tortured and killed by foreigners. It can be said that everyone was the enemy of the country and the family, and was in an extremely difficult situation. Had long been looking forward to revenge and regaining the rivers and mountains. The banner of revitalizing the Han army suddenly touched the desires of many northern Han people, so it grew rapidly. Under the training system set up by Xiaopinggan, the appearance and combat power of the Xing'an army had unknowingly opened a huge gap with the ordinary armies of that era. Xiaopinggan set up the position of supervisor in the army, and every platoon had an supervisor. The supervisor incorporated political education, patriotic education, loyalty education, and cultural education into the training of the army. Xiaopinggan personally compiled the teaching materials for the Xing'an army, and also wrote the military song of the Xing'an army, which gave the entire northern expedition to the Xing'an army a strong cohesion and sense of mission, ensuring the purity and faith of the army. On the other hand, Xiaopinggan built docks in Jiangjian, promoted various new technologies adapted to that era, set up smelters and furnaces, forged weapons to expand productivity, and built Jiangjian into his own solid rear area and base. From the beginning, Xiaopinggan began to use his ability to understand the future and history to quickly gain a foothold in Jiangjian, and build the Xing'an army into a Han Iron army with strong combat power and excellent political quality. When the 12,000-strong Han Dynasty army was formed, Xiaopinggan learned from historical experience and lessons, and used flexible political skills to win over the armed forces of Han landlords of all sizes in the north, win over the Wuobao owners from all over the country, and spread out a lot of weapons. After receiving the official position, he quickly gathered around him a Han armed group mainly composed of Xing'an army. In this process, many tragedies that had happened were avoided. Zhangping was shocked by the military appearance of the Xing'an army, and was personally persuaded by Xiaopinggan. With the promise of the high-ranking official Haolu, Zhang Ping joined Xiaoping's camp with sincerity. Yin Yi, who joined the army beside Ti, did not die in Zhang Ping's hands. Fan Ya, the prefect of Jiao County, fell into a trap prepared by Xiaoping. He originally wanted to attack the Xingan army, but was captured alive by Xiaoping, who sent troops to sneak into the city in disguise and finally surrendered to Xiaoping. Before Chen Xuan, a second-rate boy, had time to seek refuge with Shi Li, he was captured alive by Li Tuhao, a subordinate of Xiaoping who instigated his rebellion. Then Xiaoping used Chen Xuan to pretend to surrender to Shi Li, and staged a big drama between the Xingan army and Chen Xuan's armed forces. Shi Li thought he had an advantage and sent a large army to assist Chen Xuan. However, the large army sent by Shi Li falling into Xiaoping's trap and ambush, the Xingan army finally wiped out Shi Li's 110,000 troops, which greatly boosted the Xingan army's prestige and made it famous all over the world. Therefore, Sima Rui promoted Xiaoping to the title of General of the Northern Expedition. Xiaoping, who defeated Shile, sent people to contact the refugee leaders Li Ju, Wei Jun, Guo Mo, and others, and brought them all under his command. The strength of the Xingan army once again reached a higher level, and it seemed that it had become the guardian of the Han people in the north. And hope. Just when the situation in the northern expedition was looking good, the Eastern Jin dynasty finally sent people to pick peaches, ready to snatch the fruits of victory that the Xingan army had fought so hard. Sima Rui appointed Dai Yuan as the imperial envoy, general of the expedition to the west, and governor Si Yan. The military officers of the 6 states of Henan and Hebei and the governor of Sizhou came with a lot of titles to ask Zhuti to hand over the Xingan army and the territory he had conquered. However, Sima Rui and the court thought things were too simple. Xiaoping had long expected this situation and had been preparing for it for several years. Faced with this situation, Xiaoping himself had not yet reacted. When they heard about the situation, a group of people in the Xingan army exploded and were all filled with indignation. Therefore, the final result was logical. The Daiwan people, who were filled with joy with the imperial edict, had not yet arrived in Sizhou. On the way, they heard that the Xingan army had mutinied and wanted to take his head and cook him like a 2-legged sheep. He was frightened. He turned around and ran away. On the way, he was chased by Zhang Ping and his team disguised as gangsters. In the end, he even lost the imperial edict, honor guard, and official seal and fled for his life. He never dared to take office again. Then, the Xingan army mutinied and Xiaoping was outraged. The mutinous Xingan army immediately launched a banner to support the loyal ministers of the Qing dynasty. 100,000 Xingan army cavalry rushed directly to Jianjin with great momentum and launched a southward attack. The gesture of capturing Sima Rui alive in the Eastern Jin dynasty. Sima Rui and the officials who were good at playing tricks in the Southern Jin dynasty were frightened into chaos. Finally, Sima Rui had to issue an order to appoint Xiaoping as the general of the army. The governor of Sizhou, and then the mutiny of the Xingan army was quelled. The fruits of the northern expedition that revitalized the Han army were thus preserved. At the end of this world bead, Xiaoping led an army of more than 200,000 Xingan troops to cross the Yellow River and continue the northern expedition. Just when Xiaoping bowed again on the Yellow River and swore to wipe out the barbarians and restore the Han people, the world of Jizu was shattered, leaving only Xiaoping with an eternal thought. Because it was a breakthrough fusion, the rewards given to Xiaoping by Zhuoti's northern expedition's world bead were particularly generous. Once the world bead was successfully fused, the upper limit of Xiaoping's secret mandala's divine power suddenly exceeded the 29,000-point mark. Moreover, in the secret mandala, there is an additional sculpture of Zhuoti during the northern expedition and Yi Zongliu, which can summon Zhuoti. Xiaoping's secret mandala was full of divine power at the moment. Xiaoping directly summoned Zhuoti, and Lingxiao city suddenly had another general. One day later, the heavy snow in Wolong territory had stopped, and the sky once again showed a clear blue color. The breakthrough fusion of the Zudi world pearl made Xiaopinggan feel very good. Xiaopinggan was going to go to the temple of Wolong territory today to report for the God of War competition. Field records. Originally, whether or not to report this record meant little to Xiaopinggan, and Xiaopinggan didn't want to be famous for it. However, I heard that the temple can give special rewards, which is another matter. Xiaopinggan, who summoned the crane, rode on the back of the crane and flew to the temple. Just 3 hours after leaving the cave, the crane summoned by Xiaopinggan finally flew to the airspace where the temple was located in Wolong's territory. This temple is the temple of the Lord of Heaven, representing the will of the Lord of Heaven. This is also the highest authority in the Wolong territory. The entire temple is an island floating in the sky of Wolong territory. The entire island is made of gold, silver, and jade, just like the heaven. There are various magnificent buildings and palaces standing on the Golden Island, and the entire airspace around the floating island is in the middle. There is a circle of sacred light similar to that behind the head of a powerful god, surrounding it, which looks both majestic and peaceful. It's you. Xiaopinggan was about to land in the square outside the temple when a slightly familiar voice suddenly sounded in his ears. When Xiaopinggan turned his head, he saw Mr. Pei stepping on a fire with purple flames. Wheel, flying from a distance. The fire wheel under Mr. Pei's feet seems to be some kind of treasure, a bit like the legendary Nezha's fire wheel. It is extremely fast, allowing people to fly in this airspace without relying on the forbidden armor. Pei is stepping on the fire wheel. The young master was dressed in purple, looking cool and coquettish. Seeing Xiaopinggan, Mr. Pei had a look of surprise on his face, and his expression was a little unnatural. Oh my god, he has grown so big that it is almost possible for him to advance to the level of a god. This is the first time he has played with scissors with someone. Stone cloth plays with psychological shadow. Mr. Pei, long time no see. Xiaopinggan's eyes suddenly fell on the fire wheel at Mr. Pei's feet. This treasure at Mr. Pei's feet looks quite unique. What do you want to do? You can't be here just to wait for me. My Heaven Escape treasure wheel is a treasure made by the ancient god clan. I won't use it to bet with you. Mr. Pei suddenly fell from the air, and with a move of his hand, he put away the fire wheel under his feet and looked at Xiaopinggan warily. Haha, it's nothing. Don't be nervous, Mr. Pei. I'm here to do something today. Xiaopinggan put away the crane, and like a fallen leaf, he landed gently on the square outside the temple. You come to the temple to do business? Why don't I believe it so much? Mr. Pei looked at Xiaopinggan with suspicion, snorted coldly, with a look of arrogance on his face, as if he wanted to find some psychological balance in front of Xiaopinggan. Mo Ziyang may not be qualified to come here, so what can you do here?